Welcome to Built with Purpose. I am Chris Fay, and this is the show where vision meets execution and leadership leaves a legacy. From design studios to innovation hubs and product lines to skylines, we meet the people building more than great companies. They're creating culture, driving impact, and shaping what's next. These are the stories and strategies behind how the world gets built with purpose. All right, everybody, welcome to Built with Purpose. Today is another episode of Between the Builds, a chance for us to reflect on our last guest and just kind of give some thoughtful insights for you as leaders to hopefully help you impact what it is that you do every day. So, last week we had an awesome conversation with Tony Iannessa. He is the founder and CEO of Big Construction. They are a very successful construction company in the Chicago, Illinois market. Have done some really good things. And, cool quote that I had from him that's going to really kind of frame our conversation today with Between the Builds. I had to stop being the system and start building systems. I had to stop being the system and start building systems. So today we are going to talk about letting go to grow. All right. So what Tony and I really reflected on last week, and what I loved how he framed it in the conversation, was a whole new operating system for his company. He called it Big 1.0, moving to Big 2.0. And really what that was is a reframing of the way that he was going to be going to market. He'd already built a great company. He already had some great projects and some great people. But the one big thing that was preventing Tony from going from Big 1.0 to Big 2.0 was him. And honestly, what I loved about the conversation, I think that any leader, if you can be vulnerable to admit your own faults and weaknesses, is one of the greatest steps in taking a step forward, and really understanding where your shortfalls are, your shortcomings are. And the thing that Tony really realized is, in Big 1.0, he was trying to do everything himself. He founded the company. He knows the work. He built the process, and really everything had to come through him. And he was finding a very hard time in enabling the company to grow. And he found himself being the bottleneck. It's interesting. I think back about, my leadership career, and, I would say that I'm probably maybe halfway through or less than halfway through my career. So, certainly I've got a lot of learning to go and a lot of experiences to gain. But man, I can absolutely identify with what Tony was talking about. I think, early on in my leadership career, you're excited about this opportunity in leadership. You want to make a name for yourself. You want to make an impact, and then you ultimately want to try and control everything that happens under your purview. Whether you're a CEO of a company or a vice president or just a leader of an individual team, it's hard oftentimes to let others do things on your behalf. Because as a leader, you want to make sure things go right, because typically it's your butt, right? It's your butt to make sure this thing goes right. And so I was thinking back, to some of my earlier days, in running companies and running teams. And I was probably a more overbearing leader. I was probably one that kind of bled into a little bit of a dictator, like, hey, this is how we're going to do it. Hey, before you do that out there, make sure to show it to me. Hey, I'm going to follow up with so-and-so and make sure they've got this done. Hey, make sure you two all talk. And one of the things that I remember is what that created. The word that pops in my mind is apathy. I remember reflecting back on that style of leadership, and we might have been able to get some things done. Definitely not the amount of things that we're getting done today, but we were getting things done. But what it was doing is it was doing two things. Number one, it was putting the burden exclusively on my shoulders, right? It was up to me. I was the bottleneck. I was the linchpin that was making everything happen. And then secondarily, what it was doing, it was creating apathy amongst the team. When you have a team of very highly capable people, if they work for a leader that is overbearing and over controlling, what it does is it creates this apathy amongst a team to say, well, hey, I know, hey, Chris is going to make this decision. Chris is going to go tell that person over there, hey, well, Chris has got this ball, so I don't have to worry about it. And oftentimes you see your people pulling back as opposed to leaning forward. So this conversation with Tony, last week, we were talking around, how to make sure that we as leaders are not the bottleneck, and figuring out a way to stop being the system. And I love this quote. He said, to stop being the system and start building systems and to begin to start scaling through other people. And the turning point is when he decided to let go and to trust others to carry the ball forward. And that's a hard step. It's a hard step for a leader to step back and to scale through others. But interesting quote. So Harvard Business Review, founders who don't delegate effectively are 33% more likely to experience burnout and 20% less likely to scale their companies beyond $10 million in revenue. And then McKinsey said that organizations with strong empowerment cultures outperform peers by 30% in revenue growth and 50% in retention. So why is that? Why is there such a difference when you enable and impact others? Well, I think there's a couple things. So let's break that down just a bit. Number one is people are smart, right? People want to grow. People want to impact change. You don't want to just show up in your job every day and just do your job and go home. Like you want to make sure that you're not only providing for your family, but you're making an impact on the company or the community or organization that you're serving. And it's hard to be able to make an impact when you're always being told what to do and how to do it. So, this quote from McKinsey about 50% increase in retention, when you give people the opportunity to carry the ball for you, not only is it enabling you to scale, but it's giving them purpose. It's giving them the ability to own the change and to impact the outcome of that company or that organization. And so that's why you increase retention, is you end up having happier people that actually feel like they're doing something for the broader organization. You also likely have a happier, leader in the fact that they don't feel like they're always the bottleneck. One thing that I would just generally say as I reflect back on my experience is I don't think I always knew that I was the bottleneck. Because I think early on, I just thought this is the way that you led. I worked for some very strong leaders in the past, and I kind of watched how they led, and I just thought that, hey, I've got to hop in this role and I've got to be in charge and make stuff happen. And it wasn't that I was doing it malintent. It wasn't that I didn't trust my teams. I just didn't know any different. And I had some great mentors and peers that really helped kind of pull me back and help me recognize this theme that says, look, if you really want to go far in business, if you really want to grow a great company, the only way to do that is through others. It's through your team. It's through empowering and enabling really smart people that are aligned with your mission, that are aligned with your vision, and want to help you carry the ball forward. And so it was interesting for me. I remember some of the meetings early on. So I kind of had this realization. I was trying to let the team do more of the work, but there was some apathy that was still out there. There was some apathy in this team that was still saying, yeah, I see Chris kind of giving me some responsibility, but I'm not sure I really trust this. The turning point for me was I sat down with my team in complete psychological safety and complete vulnerability and admitted to the type of leader that I was being. And I remember the conversation. I remember we were sitting here. I kind of remember where everybody was. And I was like, look, I'm the problem. All right. I have been so in control and wanting to control what's happening inside of this group, inside of this company, that I'm preventing you all from being successful. And I'm not doing it because I don't trust you all. I'm not doing it because I think you're not capable or not doing a good job. I'm doing it just because it's the only way that I'm programmed. And I need your help to help hold me accountable to be a better leader to ultimately support you. Right? So I basically admitted it. Hey, look, this is the issue that I'm having. I want you all to lead. I want you all to take the ball, and I want you all to help hold me accountable to allow you to do that. And I remember there was this like aha moment when we were having this conversation that once everybody saw that I recognized that I was the bottleneck, and once everybody saw that I invited them in to participate in making me better, ultimately the floodgates were open. And all of a sudden I would like come into a meeting and I would ask a question or whatever. And my team would push back at me. Hey, Chris, we got this, man. Like, yeah, I'll let you know what's going on. Or, I'd follow back up with somebody. Hey, I just want to make sure this is getting done. Oh yeah. No, I already talked to Mike about this and no problem. We've got that handled. And so they felt free to push back against me because I gave them that permission. And I think giving your team permission and being vulnerable of where your shortcomings are as a leader, where you're good and where you're also weak, and asking them for their help in making you better gives them that freedom to step up and to help drive. So, conversation, last week with Tony was awesome, because really I was sitting there listening to him talk about this big 1.0 and big 2.0 and scaling through others, and really being a CEO that is trying to build a scalable infrastructure that's not solely based on him. And man, I just went right back to, probably me, 10 or 15 years ago, and thinking about the way that I was running. And even today, I've got a lot going on in my world, and a lot of very exciting stuff. I'm sitting here I want to balance this amazing family that I have. I want to make sure I've got some personal time to pull back and relax and do the things that I really enjoy. I've got the podcast. I've got a couple companies that I'm working on. Like, there's so many things that are out there. And oftentimes this conversation in particular brought me back to make sure, as a reminder, am I doing all of this by scaling through others, or am I trying to do all of this myself? And if I want to go fast, go after this alone. And if I want to go far, go after this together. And it's a great reminder for us as leaders to second guess the way that we are trying to spend our time today. Am I spending time doing things that a CEO should be doing? Or am I spending time that somebody else is better suited to be helping me with? Am I the best person to solve this problem? Or is somebody that's closer to the problem actually the better person? So I think this is a great call to action for all of us as leaders to take a step back, no matter what your role is. If you're leading a team of one, if you're leading an organization, a nonprofit, if you're leading a company, if you're just starting a company out. Am I leading and scaling through others? Am I empowering other people to step up and motivate them to take action on my behalf? Or am I the bottleneck? And if you identify that you are the bottleneck, it is time to take action. And immediately, your next step is to call a meeting with your team, to pull everybody together, and to tell them you're the bottleneck. Just like I did. I pulled my team together. Folks, I'm the bottleneck. I'm holding us back. I need your help to help us scale. I need you to step up, and I want your help, and I need your help, and I want you to help hold me accountable. That is your next step and call to action. And I bet if you meet with your team and you're vulnerable and you let them know that, hey, look, I've not been doing the best job, and I really want to have you step up, you're going to see them light up. You're going to see them respond to that invitation. And then your job from that point forward is to enable them and to give them the freedom, and then to check back in with them on how you're doing. All right. So the theme today was letting go to grow. Love this conversation. It was a great reminder, even for me, as all the things that I have going on in my world. And I think that it's a great reminder for a lot of you, hopefully, as leaders, to figure out how you grow and how you scale and how you take the next step in whatever you are doing. So with that, we have some really cool conversations coming up on Built with Purpose. Make sure to follow us and like us and share. And then, hey, send us a note. I'd love to hear what you're thinking. Give some feedback. And with that, we'll see you next time. See ya. Okay, thanks for joining me on Built with Purpose. If you have enjoyed today's episode, subscribe, share, and leave us a review. It helps more bold leaders find the show. For resources and show notes, visit our website and connect with me, Chris Fay, on LinkedIn. Until next time, keep building great companies, cultures, and legacies with purpose.